Alright people, Catfish Dave here. This is the Great Bait Deficit of 2023. I done a couple videos ago, how to catch bait in deep water. In that video I demonstrated using a 10-foot tape net. The tape net is designed for deep water. When I started catfishing, you could get by with one of those cheap 5-foot Walmart nets. You could run to any of these public ramps, public access areas, throw that 5-foot net, and catch gizzard shad fairly easy. Later on in life, I got a YouTube channel, and about that time, the sport of catfishing was exploding. Everybody was doing it. It had become a fad thing. I started noticing I was no longer the only guy out there throwing a cast net in these areas. I was bank fishing one night, and typically at this particular area I could just throw over there by the ramp, catch bait, and go fish. I noticed I couldn't this time. I had to go to like 6 different places to scrounge up enough shad to make a video that night. So I go back to the original spot I was going to fish. I set up and I'm out there fishing, and it amazed me how many people came up while I was fishing and threw a cast net. This went on till like 3 o'clock in the morning. 3 a.m. I'm half asleep out there, and there's still cars pulling up throwing a net. As catfishing grew, the demand for bait grew. Now all of a sudden you could buy catfish bait at these bait stores in the area. Used to be you had to catch your own. If you didn't know how to catch skipjack, if you didn't know how to throw a cast net, you didn't go catfishing. Well, these bait stores put an end to all that. Anybody could stop at the local bait shop and just buy this stuff. It used to be a few guys taking these shad out of the river, but now that these things were publicly for sale, it encouraged thousands more to purchase bait at a bait shop and just go fishing. People were no longer intimidated by the sport of catfishing. They didn't have to be good at catching skipjack no more. They didn't have to learn how to throw a cast net. Some people have tried to throw a cast net for years and still can't do it. But now all of a sudden, these bait shops selling this bait allowed everybody to be a catfisherman. As the bait sold, these guys had to keep up with the demand. You got guys out there in huge john boats with high-dollar electronics, big nets, targeting these shad to supply the bait shops. This isn't only a catfishing problem. We have striper fishermen, and we used to only have a couple local guides here. Well, the Carolina striper fishermen put a hurting on their fish over there in the Carolinas. They started regularly coming to Tennessee. Not only did fishermen themselves come, but the Carolina guides started coming and guiding in Tennessee and having their clients meet them here. These guys were also needing shad. Nets going in the water every day to meet the demand of not only the striper fishermen from out of state, but all these catfishermen in state and out of state. We had lots of tourists coming here to catch catfish due to local YouTubers saying, hey, we've got catfish here. It got to the point it was so easy to get bait during the winter months when I used shad, I'd actually quit throwing a net myself and just stopping by the big fish outfitters, buying 20 or 30 shad, going out making 2 or 3 videos with it, and not having to take that time and catch the bait myself. A couple years ago I went into the big fish outfitters. Thought I was going to get bait, go out and do a trip. Guess what? They didn't have no shad this time, said they couldn't get it. I ended up not bringing a cast net with me because I was so used to just going in there and buying it. So I bought another one on the spot because I had to go catch bait myself that day. Didn't want to run 60 miles back to the house to grab a cast net. Every now and then I would try to buy bait. Sometimes they would have it, sometimes they wouldn't. It used to be without fail you could get bait at these bait shops, but now things were becoming different. It got to the point a couple years ago they had trout, and I actually bought that trout because they didn't have shad. I made several videos on the trout, using it cut, pulling for blue cats, dragging boards, and I made a video catching a flathead on a live trout. Got through that year. This winter rolls around. I think I was able to buy shad one time, and every other time they were out. The problem now is I can't just go catch shad like I used to with a regular cast net. There are no longer so many of them I can go in these shallow spots or just stop off at the local boat ramp and throw a net real quick. What shad are left in the river are now out deep, hiding, I guess because there's a bounty on their head. They're out there in 30 foot of water, 40 foot of water, sometimes 50 foot of water, right out there in the middle of the river. Not only is there not many shad left, when you do find the shad, they're only in one section of that entire reservoir. That reservoir could be 60 miles from dam to dam, and there's a quarter-mile section that holds a decent supply of shad, and everything else is just real spotty. It's either no activity or real spotty, not enough to be worth throwing a net. So I ended up buying a tape net, and I have been using that tape net all winter long. And I had found a spot on Fort Loudon that was producing pretty well once I got out there into the channel. Well, that spot started getting tough. So I now turn my sights on Watts Bar Reservoir. The first place I went to Watts Bar Reservoir, I showed up there on the lower end of the reservoir, and lo and behold, there was a shad fisherman there. Big boat, big live tanks. Guy had a number. He called himself Shad something. He was one of these guys making a living netting these shad out of the water. Well, he launched his boat. I launched mine. I never seen him find any big shad down there, and I never did either. I made a second attempt farther upstream. Lots of schools of bait out there. The small stuff, the stuff I don't want, little thread fins. The big gizzard shad, I could not find launching at 2 sections of Watts Bar. This is my third attempt at going to Watts Bar in this video. I needed to find a place I could throw my net once or twice and just go fishing. When I first got there, I still had a few shad left, so I started scanning the backwaters as I was leaving the ramp. I figured I would drag this section for a blue cat, make a catfish video while I was out here looking for bait. I had caught that one catfish in those backwaters, and during my scanning there really was no shad population in there to mention. I seen some very sporadic small schools that could have been anything, but there was no numbers of gizzard shad in that backwater creek. So I headed out into the main river, rode around for a while, and I finally found the Watts bar supply of big gizzard shad.
There's all kind of bait. I'm over 50 foot, and there's all kind of bait in the 25-foot range. I think it's bait. I'm gonna find out. You can't buy these things. We gotta try to catch them.
Now everybody that's ever thrown a cast net and got a catfish in a cast net, you know where I'm coming from. You've got a bad day going on right there. I've had to throw nets away before. They got several catfish in them. Those fins just get tangled in everything. Cut the lines, cut the braille lines. One time I netted 3 small channel cat and 2 large carp. And between those big carp rolling around with those channel cat fins stuck different places in the net was trash. I had to trash the net after that. Well, here I am after this first throw, and I've got like 8 small catfish in this net along with these shad. Throw number 2 was much better. I only got a couple catfish and was able to finish filling my bag with bigger shad on this throw.
There they are, right on that ledge. Only got a couple catfish that time, mostly shad. Got one stuck in the net.
Well, I had gotten my bait, had 1 catfish on video, so I decided to start out fishing where this bait was along this channel. I didn't do real well. I had 1 bite, and the only thing I could figure was there was so much bait there they couldn't hardly find my bait. So I decided to get out of that section completely and get away from the bait to catch enough catfish to finish the video.
We're going up in another river.
I got up to this other section of the river, I wasn't marking any bait. I was marking scattered random fish on the bottom that looked like they would be catfish. And so initially I made a first drift back down that section with a couple suspended baits and one dragon rod.
We're gonna try it up here. I'm seeing all kind of fish down there, they just won't hardly eat. Old dinky Watts bar fish. I do better suspending going with the current, but going against the current, I do better dragging. That's why I've got these suspended rods down. I'm seeing way more fish in this river than I was in the Tennessee. I've seen a lot of bait in the Tennessee. Here I'm not seeing no bait. I'm just seeing the catfish along the bottom.
After catching a few on the suspended baits, I decided to go back upriver, adding some dragon baits. Caught a couple more fish.
Yeah. Woo! Got muddy old fish, man. My bait back.
tough out here, people. Like I say, you just can't go buy this bait anymore. Luckily, when springtime gets here, these water temps get up into the 60s. I will then switch my bait choice to skipjack herring, which I can probably get much easier, and I won't have to worry about this shad problem again until next winter. Either way, this is where we're at today. This is a video. There was fish in the video. That makes the fishing video. This is Catfish Dave with another one, signing out.